For lesson 100, we are going to be talking about algebraic addition of integers. Remember, integers are positive and negative whole numbers, right? As well as 0. So, for example 1, it wants us to add a positive 8 plus a negative 5. Now, sometimes it's helpful to underline your numbers with their signs so that you know what the sign is in the middle. Okay, so one way to do this is to draw a number line. So here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I started at positive 8, I'm going to add a negative 5. If I'm adding a negative number, that means I need to go to the left. Okay, because I'm going to add negative 5. And it's kind of like subtracting 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It should land at 3. Another way to think about this is if I'm adding integers and my signs are different, one's positive, one's negative, I can subtract and then I just keep the sign of the bigger number. And in this case, 8's positive, so my bigger number is positive, so then I'm just going to keep the sign. I don't need to write a plus sign to show that it's positive. If we don't have a sign, we know it's positive 3. So now it wants us to add negative 5 plus negative 3. So once again, I can draw my number line. Sorry, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's negative 5. If I'm adding a negative number, it means I'm going to go to the left. So 1, 2, 3. Okay? I should end up at negative 8. If I'm adding integers and my signs are the same, I can add my two numbers, 5 plus 3 to get 8, and just keep the sign. Both are negative, so it's going to be a negative 8. Okay, so two different ways to do it. So now it wants us to take a negative 6 plus a positive 6. Once again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to start at negative 6. I'm going to add a positive 6. So I'm going to go 6 to the right. I should end up at 0. Once again, if I'm adding, my signs are different. Take the bigger one minus the smaller one. In this case, they're both the same, so I'm just going to take 6 minus 6, and I should get 0. I don't have a sign for 0 because it's neither positive nor negative. So now, opposites are when we have a positive and a negative whole number that are the same. So we have, like in this case, we have a positive 6 and a negative 6. Okay, those are opposites. If opposites are added, our sum is going to be 0 and we shouldn't have to show any work. Okay, just like this last problem. If we would have saw that it's a negative 6 plus positive 6, those two are opposites, we ended up with 0. Okay. So now we're talking about opposites. They want us to find the opposite of each number. So if I have a negative 7, the opposite is going to be a positive 7. Remember, I don't need to draw that plus sign. If there's no sign, I know it's positive. The opposite of 10 is going to be negative 10. This 10 is positive, so I just write the negative of that number. So just remember, when we're adding, if our signs are the same, we're just going to add the two numbers and keep the same sign. If our signs are different, like we have a negative plus a positive number, then we're going to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. Now they want us to subtract. Okay? So I have negative 10 minus a negative 6. Once again, there's two ways to think about this. So the first way, if I have negative 10 minus a negative 6, when I'm subtracting, really what I'm doing is I'm going to add the opposite. So if I subtract a negative, I'm going to change the minus to a plus, and then I'm going to change the sign of my last number. So since they're both minus, we have minus a negative, they both turn to plus. So now I have negative 10 plus a positive 6. Okay? So in this case, we're adding, they're different signs, so I can subtract them. 10 minus 6 is 4, keep the sign a bigger number. 10 was negative, so it's going to be negative 4. The other way to think about this, if I'm subtracting and my signs are the same, now this is different than addition. If I'm subtracting and my signs are the same, then I'm going to have to numbers and keep the sign of the bigger number. Okay? Another way to think about that, if that's easier, Otherwise, just remember you're adding the opposite, and then once we get to addition, we can remember our rules from before, or we can draw number lines. So one more example. A negative 3 minus a positive 5. Okay, so once again, two ways to think about this. I have negative 3 minus positive 5. So I can remember to add the opposite. So I'm going to change the minus to a plus, and I'm going to change the sign of the 5. Since it was positive, I'm going to make it negative. Now if I can either draw a number line, or I can remember that when I'm adding it, both signs are the same. I can add my numbers and just keep the same sign, which was a negative sign, so it would be a negative 8. The other thing I do, if I'm subtracting and my signs are opposite, I'm going to add the two numbers together. And then keep the sign of the smaller number in this case. That might change. Okay, so it's a little trickier with the subtraction. So the best way to think about it is to add the opposite, like we did over here. Add the opposite, and go back to our addition where if the signs are the same, we can add them up, keep the sign. If the signs are different, we subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. Okay. Lesson's a little trickier. Go ahead, try the practice set. There's a bunch of problems here, but they should be fairly easy problems. If you need to draw a number line, use the little hints I gave you. Do it how you can and see if we can't get the right answers. Okay. If you need to go back and rewatch the video to help you out, go ahead and do it. Okay. Make sure that if you have any questions, you bring them to class. It's a little bit trickier of a lesson, and it's setting the stage up for what we're going to. So make sure you understand this, whether you understand it right away or you need to ask some questions.